and welcome. It is time finally to talk about the 0.5 update. Now I'm very excited for this. We saw an insane amount of changes, reworking a bunch of mechanics, adding a new pinnacle boss, adding what kind of seemed to be like an Uber boss, the way it like upgrades every time you redo the area or something like that. We have a couple new ascendancies, we have a bunch of new maps, and most importantly, the Atlas now has a bunch of stuff on it. So there's like places to go on it, which thank God, it needed that so bad. But what I want to talk about today are some of the changes that I was excited about that weren't as focused on, or that were discussed during the Q&A, or that people aren't talking about as much. Just because I've seen 5,000 summaries of this patch, I don't think you need another one, so we're going to talk about other things. So the first thing that I want to talk about, kind of in depth, they did give us quite a few details on this, although I know that we'll get more in the patch notes. Remember, the patch notes will come out the week before the patch, so we still have a little bit to wait there, but they are coming, and it's about the red life defense buffs. So what they said is that defense is not up to par in Act 4 to lower tier maps. And they also said, interestingly enough, that the deaths for armor ES hybrids are like 300%, 3 times what other defense characters are experiencing. So there are quite a few defense methods that need buffing, and they are addressing it in this patch. I know a lot of people wanted life on the tree. They're not doing that, but they are doing some other things to help mitigate it. They said that armor and evasion base types are getting their stats buffed, probably starting Act 3, and then they're gonna like shave a bit off the top. So like they found that once you get to endgame, that the defenses were like extremely high, and basically you weren't dying enough, surely. So they're gonna like shave some off the top there. But for the most part, like the mapping experience, they should be buffing the defenses, which is very important to me because in my opinion, that's when it feels the worst, is when you first get into maps and you're having this shift in what you're trying to do with your build. Like this is when your build should be online, is Act 3, Act 4, early tier maps, and yet that's when the defenses feel the worst. Really sucks. So they are buffing everything in that zone for red light, for evasion and armor. This includes adding new nodes to the passive tree, adding hybrid nodes to the passive tree, adding more clusters for armor applies to elemental damage, basically just giving you more sources to pull from for defenses. Because one thing they mentioned is that if you are going like hybrid evasion armor, for example, you would have to take both the armor and the evasion nodes, and so you'd end up in a situation where you're like spending more points for less value. So we should see a solid buff to passive nodes for hybrid, and they said that they are going to add more for armor applies to elemental damage, because this is a huge defensive layer for armor builds, but you have to get it on gear mostly like on your boots, gloves, helmet, whatever. You have to get armor applies to elemental damage, and there's only like 3 nodes on the tree that this works for, so now they're adding a bunch more places on the passive tree to get armor applies to elemental damage. So I think overall it will smooth out the experience for us red life builders. And they also said that they are nerfing energy shield a little bit, although I don't know what that looks like. They didn't really describe it. We'll have to wait to the patch notes to find out. But they did have a long discussion about this in the Q&A about how defenses in what they called the mid game was way lower than they expected and anticipated and were hoping for. And so they're just going to kind of boost those numbers to help us survive. And they did also mention that they're changing the equation for deflection. Now, I think that what they were saying is that deflection is really bad early on, but then like too good later. So they're going to be doing some kind of adjustment there to help that feel good when you have just a little bit of it and then not be overpowered when you have too much of it. I've never played a deflection build, so I don't really know what to expect in this category, but that is something to be aware of. The other thing that I've been asking for constantly is the in-game price checker, and I am so thrilled about this. I know the console players are the most excited, but I have been asking for this like basically all of last season, and mostly because we get that option in the trait that says like filter by item stats, and I was like, hey, if they have filter by item stats here, why wouldn't we just be able to do that on any item? Why is it restricted to only things in the trade window? And they did add it in for any item. Now, one thing that I did find out, we'll have to see how this plays, but the price check actually goes plus or minus 20% of whatever your stat is. So if your stat is like 10 to 20 physical damage, like adds 10 to 20 physical damage, the range that the stat that goes in the trade window will say like adds 8 to 20 for physical damage. Like they add like a little buffer on each end. So maybe other tools already do this. It kind of sounds like there's some of that, but I was hoping for like a more exact match. I kind of get why they're doing it, but it's just not really what I expected. So I'm not really sure, but there is like a little bit of math going on there. And I noticed because in the reveal, they have like an item that adds 20 physical damage. And then when they put it in the thing, it said like adds 21.8. And I was like, why are there 0.8? Like, why do you get decimal numbers in the trade? And it's because they're like adding a little buffer, plus or minus 20% it looks like. Maybe that'll make things easier, maybe not. But regardless, they've kind of implemented this almost exactly as I had hoped. So I am absolutely thrilled, and I'm happy for all our console players who get to rejoice. Now, another thing they said in the Q&A, which was very interesting, is that Venom Crypts have signaling. So they talked about in the reveal that they've added signaling to other places in the Axe, like in the hunting grounds, they have like little footsteps that lead to Crowbell. They've also added signaling in the Venom Crypts, which is one of the worst locations of all time. And what they have said is that the snakes in the Venom Crypts all kind of slither towards the end. So you want to follow the little snakes in that area. And I think also in the area, the zone before that, all of the snakes go towards the Venom Crypts. So if you're trying to go to the Venom Crypts, you follow the snakes. And then within the Venom Crypts, they're going to have more signaling of like, you start seeing the snake monsters, the Cabal clan or whatever they are, that you'll know that you're getting close to the end there. And then they'll start phasing out like the other monsters that you see that aren't snake-like. And they've also added a shortcut at the end of the Venom Crypts that like leads you to the next area. So it seems like they've kind of added signaling in basically every area in the campaign, but I'm most excited for this in the Venom Crypts because the Venom Crypts is one of the most annoying. Like every time I have to do it, I swear I circle through that zone like 4 times. I'm so bad at navigating it, and I'm really excited that they're gonna have some way to just figure it out. I'm just gonna follow the snakes and win the game. That's how it works. Now, the other change that I've kind of pieced together, although I don't know that this is really that important, but it is worth knowing because a lot of people are speculating about this right now. They renamed the Waystones to Ancient, Refined, and Pristine. So Ancient would be tier 1 through 5, Refined is tier 6 through 10, and Pristine is tier 11 through 15, 11 through 16, but they got rid of everything tier 6 and above. So basically like Ancient has tier 1 through tier 5, and then Refined has tier 1 through tier 5, but like a Refined tier 1 is equivalent to what we have as currently a tier 6, right? A Pristine tier 1 is the same as what is currently a tier 11. And the key like signifier here is they have a couple clips showing the monster level of the Waystones, and they also show that the Citadel requires a Pristine Waystone of tier 5, which aligns with the current requirement, which is a tier 15 for a Citadel. So I'm not really sure why they felt the need to rename these and to add like 3 separate categories with same tiers. At least at the start, a lot of us are going to have to be doing some mental math for like, okay, if I have a Pristine tier 3, like that's like a tier 13, tier 14 map. Like you kind of have to like do a little bit of number work in your head. Hopefully eventually this just becomes natural, but it will be kind of cool. Instead of saying, are you on tier 15 maps? You're going to be like, are you on P5 maps? Are you in the P maps? Are you in the R maps? I'm in the A3 map, you know? We're really like playing chess. We're playing Battleship over here with our P4 maps. So we've got some new terminology coming up. The lexicon for Path of Exile is changing, but effectively it just means like higher monster level. And they have like different looks to them and stuff. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting change because I don't know what motivated it. I would be curious to find out why they've renamed and recategorized these. And it also makes me wonder for reforging, if you reforge like 3 ancient tier 5 maps, will they become a refined tier 1? Or maybe there's some in-game mechanism that they work differently, but they didn't talk about this in the reveal. I assume it's just because it was like a rename and they were like, I don't want to have to go into this complicated mess. It does feel a little bit complicated to me. I don't know why they did it, but if you see people talking about the like new Waystones, they're not new, they are just renamed, but essentially like Pristine is 11 through 15, Refined is 6 through 10, and Ancient is like same as now. And the other thing they mentioned is you'll have a little little bit better control over which mechanics you see in a map, which is nice. They said that if you put in 3 tablets of one mechanic, you can't get any other mechanics. Basically, like, your map has the opportunity for 3 different league mechanics to show up, and if you put in 3 irradiated tablets, 3 overseer tablets, 3 like generic tablets, then you will see 3 random mechanics. If you put in 2 breach tablets and 1 irradiated, you'll see breach and then 1 other mechanic. So you have a bit more agency over what you'll see in your maps, but it's nice because then if you put in 3 ritual tablets, you will only see ritual. You won't get other mechanics. Now, obviously, this is only like league mechanics. You're still gonna get rogue exiles and Esmir spirits and strong boxes and stuff like that, but that is obviously a useful thing to be aware of as you're going into mapping. We also saw some like monster effectiveness scaling, which is something I put in my bingo card and they didn't talk about, but for some reason it's like in the content reveal, kind of. You like see it on maps. I'm guessing that some mods will just scale monster effectiveness and some mods will scale pack size, but we'll see exactly how this plays out. I'm not really sure that we'll have that many levers to pull on it. I'm guessing it's just like something to take into consideration, like another percentage to keep track of. If you wanted more stuff for a spreadsheet, there you go. But we do have that now, so I'm excited to see how that plays, and I want to know what making that number very large will feel like versus making pack size very large. I am really excited about what is coming up in this update. I think that having the quest lines is huge. I think they've added a lot of depth to a lot of the previous mechanics. There's a lot of people complaining that the Atlas structure is still the same, but to me it's different because your farms, like the ability to get specific items, is significantly improved, and you can take each mechanic way farther than you could before. So yeah, you can't farm augury over and over again, but you can take delirium to like insane levels of target farming, and I would have much rather had these updates than a new class. So I am not sad about this at all. They also confirmed Delve is coming eventually. Not now, probably not 1.0, but eventually.
Still want to make proper Delve one day, but at least we've got this.
And one other thing to mention to end this is that they showed the Mage Blood, and there's been a lot of speculation about how the Mage Blood works. The Mage Blood that they show has this like empty slot, and it literally is the trinket slot from Path of Exile 1. Like the little outline in the slot is exactly the same. So I don't know if that's a placeholder or if there's going to be a trinket in the game, which would be kind of weird because trinkets are part of heist, and so you'd think that they'd have something else attached to it. I don't know what the plan is there, but people who are talking about like this extra slot, it's like the outline of the heist trinket. So anyway, I hope knowing some of these changes is useful for you, and there will be more information on this. And unfortunately for me, there's like a ton of lore that I now have to figure out in this update, but don't worry, I will condense it down and give it to you so you don't have to figure it out from random NPC conversations. And I am super excited. I will see you all in Lakestar. I've actually been like playing a little bit of Huntress in my free time because I'm now very hyped. I'm very excited. I can't wait. So I will see you all in the game later, and have a great rest of your morning, day, evening, whatever it is. I hope it's awesome. I will see you in the next one. Bye.